Hezbollah continues its all-out war on Israel, firing rockets and missiles into Israel on a daily basis. The north of Israel is literally on fire, pretty much every day, every day. Israel is responding, with pinpoint attacks and threats to go to war, if they have to. Now, this has been over 8 months of this, and they still haven't seen themselves as having to. But the rhetoric continues, as does the bombing and the rockets from Lebanon towards Israel. Now, while Israel is talking about doing something militarily against Hezbollah and not doing anything, there's something missing in even the threats that Israel is issuing to its enemy from the north, which is Israel is forgetting that Hezbollah is firing from a sovereign country with a government and a military and a police force and the ability to to at least attempt to prevent this from going on. And not only are they not attempting, they're not pretending to attempt. So if Lebanon as a sovereign country clearly refuses to do anything to prevent war being declared from its territory, Lebanon, just like Hezbollah, is the enemy. And when Israel finally goes on a military operation to end this, if it decides to do so, Lebanon should be the enemy that Israel declares war on. Obviously, you target mostly Hezbollah, but I think Lebanon, the Lebanese government may need to be a thing of the past for Israel to be a thing with a future. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Daniel, your thoughts on what's going on how Israel is handling it. Yeah.
Yeah, so while researching the topic, I was thinking, okay, what's gonna be the different like articles I find when I search Hezbollah and Lebanon. So when you search for Hezbollah, you'll get a lot of, Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel or some sort of Israeli response. But when you search for Lebanon, it's almost like as if Lebanon was just a region. It's not a separate country, it's just Israel's fires in Lebanon, meaning in Lebanon for Hezbollah. It almost feels like, yeah, there is no like authority, no governing authority in the region that is called Lebanon. It's just some area where Hezbollah is. But yeah, we definitely shouldn't forget that yeah, Lebanon, if it is a sovereign country and Hezbollah is acting from it, it should do something about it. But again, the other problem is that Hezbollah is not some sort of like the first concept I had in mind was terrorist group, but it is a terrorist group, but it's not some sort of like insurgent group that it's like, it's hiding in the country, and from there it's like trying to, it's not like, let's say maybe the Houthis would be example. It's not like the Houthis. It Hezbollah is part of the Lebanese government. In the last elections, they won the popular vote, but because of the Lebanese elections, they have a lot of designated seats for different religions and different regions. So they didn't have the most members, but I think that even when you count member-wise, they're the third biggest party. And as I said, they are popular. So acting as if Lebanon is some sort of like separate from Hezbollah, even that's becoming a little bit of a stretch. And so while researching the elections, I also found that there are like forces in Lebanon trying to go against Hezbollah, either political parties or even the government sometimes tries to. I think notably, so there was the 2006 Lebanon war, and in that one, when the ceasefire was declared, Hezbollah was still hesitant to like get out of the southern border, and Lebanon was supposed to enforce it, and they tried to do it, but didn't really do it. Uh, so yeah, something to remember is that oh, where was I going with this? Uh, or anything you want to add to that? Because I lost my
Um,
train of thought.
Yeah, so when people suggest that military action might be necessary in any situation in the West, you'll always hear those who oppose it say, "Well, we created this problem. We created the Taliban fighting against the Soviets. Rumsfeld shook hands with Saddam Hussein. Israel created all that stuff." We always hear, which of course is not an argument. It's if anything, it's an argument to say, "Look, we made a mistake. We can fix it with military action." Now, Israel has been wrong in its handling of the situation in Lebanon for many decades, from the '82 war in Lebanon, which of course was ended with U.S. pressure before what needed to be done had been done, which would have been the killing Yasser Arafat and defeating the PLO. It ended in 2000. Israel decided to take its troops out of South Lebanon who were there from that war. That was done badly. The South Lebanese army, which was an army of people in southern Lebanon who were fighting alongside Israel, was they were brought into Israel and given citizenship, but not treated the way you treat allies in a war. Some of them chose to go back to Lebanon, knowing they're going to face treason charges, which says a lot about how they were treated by Israel. And of course, the 2006 war wasn't won decisively. It wasn't won by Israel. Let's call it what it is. Um, yeah, Israel's history definitely has helped bring the situation to where it is now. And you would think that what they would do now is actually say, okay, let's fight properly. Let's do what we haven't tried yet, which is not to ask them to stop, but to go all out. Of course, whenever something happens in that region, whenever it's a bit worse than it normally is, you hear the U.S. telling Israel to stop. So Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, also has said to Israel that the U.S. doesn't want escalation with Lebanon. And of course, escalation is a decision of Hezbollah because they decided to start firing rockets. And what should have happened is on October 7th, Israel should have destroyed South Lebanon, but they didn't. And the U.S. continues to tell Israel not to do what it should do. Israel continues to choose not to do that, and the price is being paid daily by, of course, over 100,000 Israelis who can't go back home. I think the area that Hezbollah is firing on is expanding in the north and can keep expanding. That's, again, a decision of Hezbollah how much to do and when, and Israel gives them that decision by not acting decisively.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed by the number, by how big it is. But yeah, you have to remember, no, northern Israel is still basically the people there were evacuated, and uh, uh, the number I checked was a long time ago, so it might be a bit different now. But I think at the highest point it was like 100,000 people, and I think even since then it kept it stayed around like 60,000. That 60,000 people that have been, yeah, it had to be evacuated from their homes have been for what is it now, more than, I mean, 7 months, 8 months, and it's all because of, yeah, Israel is not doing anything. Israel is just waiting for what to happen. I mean, Hezbollah said, the Hezbollah, uh, like head of Hezbollah said they don't want any escalation because of course they want. This is what benefits them. They can just shoot rockets into Israel. They're hurting Israel. And whatever response Israel gives is never big enough to actually cause any real damage. So nothing really stops them from continuing doing this. They like this status quo. This is perfect for them. It's similar to uh, the status quo with Hamas we used to have when they just shoot rockets over, and they were good. uh, that's all they wanted. Uh, and so sort of coming back to Lebanon is, it's very much like almost like a split country, especially with all the religions. You have a lot of political, basically political movements in different areas. And it does seem like a lot of them do not like Hezbollah, despite its popularity, and would like to get rid of it. If Lebanon is a sovereign country and wants to assert itself, which when you have a group as Hezbollah basically controlling like what 1/3 of your nation, where you cannot even have your own police, you cannot enforce your laws. Yeah, maybe it's time for Lebanon actually to do something about it. And Israel is someone they could ally with. Uh, they could basically, yeah, do this together. Israel and Lebanon. Israel clearly has an interest in Hezbollah not being there anymore. And if Lebanon, or if the people in Lebanon, I should be more specific, really want to get rid of Hezbollah, now is the time to basically give a signal to Israel that either they'll join forces or, yeah, they'll try to help them in any way they can. And probably the first way to do it is not have Hezbollah actually in the government.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Uh, So Susie says in the chat, why is Israel expected to rid the entire region of the extremists? If Israel falls, they know they are next, so it is in their best interest to help Israel with these Islamists. I mean, in a sense, Israel is the one who needs to eliminate the terrorists because they are surrounded by terrorists, and the terrorists, want to wipe Israel off the map. So it is the job of the Israeli government. But yes, it is also the job of any freedom-loving country to fully support Israel in its attempts to do so and oppose Israel in its refusal to do so when it refuses to do so, rather than the other way around, which is what we're seeing at the moment. So, and yeah, on your point, Daniel, it's it's not an easy thing. If people in Lebanon suddenly want to stand up to Hezbollah, it's not. It will create a civil war, and but the alternative is available to Israel as well. Israel can end this war by laying down its arms and letting the terrorists take over and kill the Jews, and Hezbollah will take over from the north, Hamas will take over from the south. Presumably, at some point, they'll go to war with each other after they get rid of Israel, because that's kind of what they do. But yeah, that's not the alternative we'd like to see. And again, what I would like to see is Israel name the enemy in the way it should name the enemy in Gaza as well, which it doesn't in Gaza and in the West Bank, where the enemy, as we've said on this channel, is the Palestinian people. It is the people who are behind this, behind the organization doing this, and or at least not doing anything about those who do this in their name. So in Lebanon, the fact that people say, look, we can't do this, Hezbollah is too strong, we can't fight against them. In part, they wouldn't think this if Israel, uh, asserted its military power, showed its military power, and the people of Lebanon started fearing not acting against Hezbollah more than they fear acting against Hezbollah. At the moment, they have no reason to fear Israel because Israel responds to all-out war with pinpoint attacks and apologetic rhetoric. If Israel actually said, look, where we have an enemy, that enemy will no longer exist once it targets us. And if Israel actually did that, first of all, if Israel did that in Gaza, Hezbollah would have stopped without any military action taken in the north. If Israel had taken out Hamas and punished the Palestinian people after October 7th and had acted militarily to destroy Hezbollah once they started firing, Iran never would have attacked Israel. Israel can send a message and is sending a message no matter what action it chooses to take, is always sending a message to current and future enemies. And the message Israel is currently sending is we will not act to defend ourselves, as opposed to a message that says we will destroy you if you even fire one rocket, which is a message people will hear and will act on. So yeah, what Israel chooses to do or not to do in the north at this point means more for Israel's future than what it chooses to do or not to do in Gaza. In a sense, what Israel has done in Gaza is considered to be a lot. I obviously disagree with that, but it's considered to have taken military, serious military action. In Lebanon, you cannot make that case. So, yeah, I hope Israel acts, first of all, for its immediate future and so that people can go back to their homes. The reason we don't hear of many deaths from these Hezbollah attacks is because so many people are away from their homes. And hopefully that will send a very clear message to the many people in the Middle East who want to eliminate the Jews, and also to those who around the world who support them.
So also Bonnie in the chat is asking, I think it was, what does Hezbollah stand for, or what is Hezbollah? So basically, as far as I understand it, they were created around like 1982, basically during the Lebanon War, and basically have structured themselves after the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and uh, and their connections to Iran are very clear. Basically, in a sense, they answer to Ayatollah Khomeini. Uh, I think the first one actually gave them the name, chose the name Hezbollah. Uh, and yeah, uh, their goal is to, the way they say it, is to get rid of all the French and American colonials and or colonials or any kind. And I think that does mean Israel. They Destruction of Israel. Basically, they were founded to resist Israel, and since that have been fighting against Israel in any way they can. So I think their ultimate goal is definitely the destruction of Israel. And what will it be after that? If I hope this never happens, but if they do it, uh, it's probably gonna, once they lose this sort of unifying goal with the other terrorists, with the other Islamic groups, as Razi said, they'll just start fighting against each other. Someone said that both Hamas and Hezbollah are funded by Iran, so in a sense they are united. But no, as soon as they would, I believe, especially because I believe Hezbollah is Shiite and Hamas is Sunni, if I'm not mistaken.
Are
Razi?
you asking me? I
Yeah.
never look into those distinctions because it's not important. Even if they're both Shiite or they're both Sunni, they can still fight each other. And that's the thing. What unites them, as you said, is the common enemy, the hatred of Israel, the desire to wipe Israel off the map. And even within that context, they have their inner conflicts, including over October 7th, which was apparently planned to be an attack from both sides, but Hamas, Sinwar chose to do it without informing his allies, and this was in part why Hezbollah didn't go all out from day one. And there was that famous Nasrallah speech. Don't remember if it was November or when exactly it was, but when people were expecting him to say something like, "We're joining the war with full force," and he said, "We support the Palestinians, but this is their war." And yeah, so there's no doubt there would be some inner conflict there. Yeah, and thank you, Kathleen, for the super chat.
So maybe to slowly start wrapping up. Yeah, just to finish up, or um, sort of put all the points together. Uh, Hezbollah is in the government of Lebanon, and even if they weren't, Hezbollah is in the in the Lebanese borders, and if Lebanon is a sovereign country, it should be in their interest to do something about it. Or, and if it's not, if there is a, terrorist group like Hezbollah attacking Israel, Israel has the right to do anything necessary to basically stop this. And Lebanon has basically two choices. Well, first of all, Israel should actually start doing something about it. But after that, Lebanon has two choices: join Israel and uh, help them get rid of Hezbollah, hopefully for good, from the region. And if not, be they might be part of the casualties. The Lebanese citizens who want something better should now is their time. Now is their time to actually get rid of Hezbollah and achieve something better. Because, as I said, it does seem like there are political movements, there are political parties who do not want Hezbollah in the region. So now is their time.
Yeah, and thank you, Jeff Bannister, for the super chat as well. Yeah, you said Israel has the right to do anything to stop this, but that's another issue here, which is I don't like the use of the word right in this context because the government doesn't have the right to do this. It has the obligation. This is what government exists for. So they don't have the choice not to. What Israel is doing that is illegitimate, although you're not going to see protests about this anywhere, is the fact that it refuses to fight against Hezbollah in the north, the fact that it refuses to go all out against Hamas in Gaza, and the results of that are seen, on a daily basis uh, by all of us, and especially felt by the people in you know in the north of Israel. Look, I don't know where this is going. Unfortunately, I kind of know how Israel will choose to deal with it, which is not in the way that it should. And unfortunately, the day when Israel actually does something in Lebanon that at least resembles what it's doing in Gaza, which of course would still not take on the Lebanese government, which it should, but it would take on specifically Hezbollah, would be when a real disaster happens, when one of those rockets actually kills multiple people, or or when there's an invasion, which was the original plan, which to do it at the same time as Hamas does it in the south. And it's really a shame when you see people doing their best to eliminate the Jews, and the Jewish state is waiting for them to have some success before it actually acts to prevent it. Yeah, this is a bit shorter, this episode. We started a bit late, and Daniel, you have a lecture to get to. So, thanks everybody. The reality show is coming up in a few minutes. UNRWA is a terrorist organization. Viewers of this channel already know that. The rest of the world knows that. Israel is considering making it official, declaring UNRWA a terrorist organization. It's very interesting to see if that happens, what that actually means. Because, as far as I understand, if it's a terrorist organization, you can and should take military action against it. But yeah, I have some stuff to say about that, but I'm not going to be on the reality show, so I'll keep it for a future episode. I'm not sure I'll be back in the next few days because I'm still in the US, but the Daily Objective will be on every single day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Daniel, and we'll see you in a few minutes on the reality show.